Never told you what happened to that Plymouth?
So we left off with the $50 Plymouth.
Yeah, and I told you we went on our honeymoon. We went up into Niagara Falls and Canada, into Vermont, and back down to New York State.
Yes, I remember that.
All right, very good.
Okay.
Well, then I had to go down to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas to go to military training, since I had been commissioned a second lieutenant, but never had any military training.
Okay.
So I had a direct commission in the Air Force. So I had to go down to the Officers Basic Military Course at Lackland Air Force Base in, I think it was the latter part of September, early October of 1953. And we took the Plymouth down there. The car went okay down there to Texas. And after I graduated from that program in about mid-December of 1953, we had to get back home because I was scheduled to go overseas in the first part of January. So we were rushing to get back home. But by that time, the Plymouth was using about 1 quart of oil every 40 miles. And we were trying to push it. You know, we couldn't go very fast because the 19th-floor Plymouth didn't go very fast. So it took us about a day and a half to 2 days to get out of Texas. And in the meanwhile, we're pushing it, trying to get home because we didn't have too many days home before I had to leave to go overseas. And so we went day and night and got to a place called Delaware, Ohio. And we drove past it. It was in the middle of the night, maybe about, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden we hear bang, 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 bang. And pistons come up out of the engine, hit the underside of the hood of the car, and we were done. We were dead in the road. Then we went to it happened to be, we were in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of December.
With all your belongings in the car.
With all our belongings in the car, piled up from the back seat up to the roof of the car. And we saw a farmhouse that was near us. It might have even been there across from where the car wound up. And there was a light on. So I walked up to the farmhouse. Well, what I didn't know was the house of the town drunk. So I tried to make a call. He allowed me to use the phone, but apparently we're out in the country, so there might have been some number that you had to dial first in order to get a connection into the city of Delaware, Ohio. I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get the phone to work, and he wasn't any help. So I went back out to the car, and I found this strange man talking to Dorothy. And this was a guy who really was a saint in disguise, because he had seen our car parked there, seen Dorothy in the car, and stopped to find out what the problem was. He had been investigating or inspecting the waterworks for the town. That's why he was out. Well, we told him our predicament, and our Good Samaritan got a tow rope and towed us all the way back 10 miles into the town of Delaware. Towed us to an overnight garage where we left the car, went to a hotel, spent the night. And the next morning I got up, went to the garage, and found out the car had blown 4 pistons. So I said, look, I got to get back to Utica, New York. Is there anything that you have that I could beg, borrow, or steal? Ah, yes. There was this car that this farmer had. Turned out to be a 39 Studebaker. So I graduated from a 40 Plymouth to a 39 Studebaker. We had paid $50 for the Plymouth, and this car would cost me $80 plus my car. Well, my car had new tires on, so it wasn't eventually worthless. Well, we piled all our stuff back from the Plymouth into the Studebaker, and I got into the car, went to start the car, put my foot on the accelerator pedal, and the accelerator pedal fell off. The mechanic was furious with the owner and said, how could you ever let these people buy that car? Well, anyway, after a while, he welded the accelerator pedal back onto the car. And off we went. Off on our merry. You know, the car wasn't a bad car. It was a Commander, and it was a a big car. It even had electric windshield wipers, which was, we didn't even know about it at the time. So anyway, off we went. And again, we were pushing it day and night. Well, what I didn't know, we had a short in the light. So anytime I drove at night and put the lights on, the battery would drain. As a consequence, there was a number of times
your phone?
where we got stalled, got pushed, got a charge and had to start all over again. In fact, we even picked up a hitchhiker and he left us because we weren't making any time. So
this was my birthday.
we were on our way again, and we got in the vicinity of Erie, Pennsylvania. Again, late at night, in the middle of a little snowstorm. The snow was piled up on the banks of the highway where the plows had put it, and the lights got dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and they finally went out. Well, fortunately, we had passed a motel not too far away. So I got turned around and drove back to the motel without any lights on and tried to get into the motel. Well, of course, the snowplow had piled up snow on the road, and we got stuck in the snow trying to get into the driveway.
Oh,
so Dorothy is screaming. She says, "Call my dad! Call my dad!" And I said, "What's he going to do? He's off several hundred miles away in Utica, New York, and besides, I says, this is our problem, we're going to solve it ourselves." So that was probably the first real disagreement that we ever had. But it wasn't much of a disagreement because I won.
Oh my God.
Anyway, I said, "Dorothy, go out and get a shovel. See if that motel would have a shovel." I got to shovel this car out of the driveway there. And so she came back, and fortunately there was one room left in the motel, and she got a shovel. We were able to shovel our way out. Well, as long as the next day, we started out again. As long as I didn't have to put the lights on in the car, it was okay. I had enough juice to get the battery going again and start out, and we went on our merry way. And that was I guess the least eventful thing that happened because we made it to Utica, New York. Well, after we got there, we parked the car in the garage, and my brother-in-law Chet, who was a mechanic, while I was away in Korea, he had looked at the car. He was the one that found out we had a short in the light. So that was the story of us getting back home in our I think we got back home around the 15th of December. And I had to leave for Korea like on about the 4th or 5th of January or something like that. What was interesting too, while we were in Texas,
oh boy,
I didn't know. I knew I had orders to go to Japan. Well, what I didn't know was that was just a stopping place along the way. And so while I was in Japan, I got a letter from. I had written to the squadron commander in Japan asking him where I would be stationed. He said, well. He wrote back and sent me a letter saying that I wouldn't be stationed in Japan, that I was going on to Korea. So that was, that was news anyway.
Wow.
So that was about all I could recall about those times, except for a young couple, it was kind of hard, but it wasn't disastrous or anything like that. But it was stuff that we had to encounter ourselves and carry on.
Wow.
So.
Mom, do you remember all that?
no, I don't remember half of that stuff he's telling
So
me.
when you were in Korea, where was she?
All right. Well, I was in Korea.
She just was home?
While I was
Stayed
in
with my
Korea,
mother and
she
father.
stayed with
Her mother?
her mother and father,
The Modis.
and went back to work at her job at Lewis and Weller, where she sewed mattresses.
You sewed mattresses?
Sewed the springs on the mattresses.
Cushions, like.
Cushions on the mattresses.
Really?
Piecework. Betty had started that job. She had gotten a job for Dorothy and Marion Abinator, her girlfriend,
Yeah.
and Dorothy's maid of honor. And the reason there, Dorothy was working prior to that at the clothing store with Mr. Lastman, Brooks Fashion Store in Utica, New York. And she was only making like about $25 a week. It was nothing. And she was at Lewis and Weller sewing cushions for the mattresses. She would make piecework, and she could make $50, $60 a week. That was a big difference.
That was big money.
And interestingly enough, Betty worked
Worked
there.
my ass off too, boy.
Marion Abinator worked there. Her future husband worked there. Betty had gotten them all jobs. And my Uncle Dick,
It was a lot of
one
work.
of my twin uncles, was working there in a different part of the factory.
Is there a
that was
piece of
very
puzzle in
interesting.
front of your feet? Or is that
Wow.
just piece of?
So,